The moment there's an announcement of this kind of riots, let's say picketing, then people tend to sit back to be cautious and play some level of caution. So it has not a good effect on our economy, but it actually helps us also celebrate the space of our democracy. Yeah.
But then, looking at the foreign diplomats, just like some of the religious leaders have had, calling on the key players, I'm talking about President Uhuru Kenyatta, NASA leader Raila Odinga, to just take time and talk to each other and not at each other like things happen to suggest. Do you foresee that before the election?
It has been quite evident that a lot of people are now concerned with the current situation in Kenya. And the international community has raised the red flag. The diplomatic society has raised the red flag. The clergy have also come out and asked for sobriety between the two parties, between NASA and Jubilee. And the question here is they're being seen to be taking very hard stands. This party is saying this camp is saying this camp is saying, you know what, if you don't really come and fulfill these irreducible minimums, then we are not going to have elections. This camp is saying, you know what, we have the tyranny of numbers in the assembly, and we are going to change these laws in this manner. So it's brought a lot of situations of concern that has raised, international concern and also diplomatic concern that if we continue in this manner, then we're going to bring a level of instability in the country. So that is what we are trying to avert. And I agree with the international community, I agree with the diplomats, and I agree with the embassies, the way they came together yesterday. You know, it's also a way of inserting, or rather putting out there some level of pressure and caution to our politicians that, listen, this country is bigger than you, and peace prevails. Peace should prevail in any circumstance, because at the end of the day, where peace prevails, development will come, and where there's development, we're going to have our youths get employment and the rest. So at this juncture, what Kenyans are concerned with, and what the international community is concerned with, and what the civil society is concerned with, is can we have a credible election so that we get past this journey and we move to the next level. And
so the question will be, it's one thing making that call,
yeah.
Because one of the things they're saying, listen, anti-IEBC protests, they're opposed to them. They're opposed to attempts to amend the election laws. Are we then likely to see with this kind of calls, NASA saying, listen, every Monday, every Friday, we had announced that we'll be going to the streets. Now we are shelving that to give dialogue a chance. Are we likely to see Jubilee lawmakers saying, listen, we are now shelving our proposed amendments to the election laws? Or these are just calls, but then in reality they don't count?
If you go, for example, if you've done things of arbitration, or rather, if you go for negotiations, you realize that the advice is that you take divergent, you pull apart a bit, so that when you come on the negotiating table, you then find a center of convergence. So that's what we are seeing in this political play. And you see Jubilee also they have their stance. You see NASA, they have their stance, and they're holding their positions, so that by the time they'll be forced or coerced to go into the negotiation table, then they'll be forced to draw towards a center of convergence. But it's one thing calling for the embargo. It's one thing calling for this, it's called the repercussions against the leaders who are going to, incite the public. But it's one thing implementing it, because listen, Kenya is a sovereign country. It has got its president. It has got its boundaries, its jurisdictions. So at the end of the day, Kenyans must come out and say, this is what we want to do, this is where we want to go. I mean, they should not wait for international society or the international community to come up and start, raising a certain level of repercussions or caution to them that if you don't do this, then we'll do this. But there's more to that. This is a political competition. There are a lot of stakes involved. Resources have gone into this. And let me tell you, those politicians have put in a lot of resources into this. So for you to just come out and think that it is just going to go away easily like that is also not practical. So let us delve and dive into the core of the matter. If the issues have been credible, because the Supreme Court annulled the previous election on the ground of irregularity and illegality. do we have an opportunity to correct those irregularities and illegalities so that when we go into this election, there is enough public confidence that, hey, listen, we are going to have a chance to exercise our rights to vote in a peaceful and credible manner? Those are the questions. And what we should be asking ourselves as Kenyans is that, do we have that atmosphere right now? As it is not anywhere foreseeable. Why? Because the hard stance taken by both political divides seem not to be conciliable at this particular juncture. So that is the issue that we are having.
23 days to the
23 days to election. And if you look at what IBC is supposed to put together, it's a lot of work, and all they need is these political players to exercise some level of sobriety to allow them to execute. One thing that is of concern to Kenyans is civic education. I mean, right now, no one is doing civic education. Remember, almost 500,000 votes went to waste.
What happened to organizations, civil society organizations, for example, ELOG, among other organizations that were the Kura Yangu, Sauti Yangu, those that were championing civic education?
Listen,
because as you put it, we are not seeing a lot of civic education.
We are not seeing a lot of
civic education. And look at the rejected or
almost 500,000. Yeah. Almost 500,000. And if truly, because Jubilee has been saying that it is the ultimate vote of the Mwananchi that must count, and in fact, that is one of the, encouragements behind the amendments that they're trying to put in Parliament, that listen, at the end of the day, we want that the ultimate vote of the common Kenyan count. But you see, it can only count if that ultimate Kenyan is conscious of what he's supposed to do when he gets inside there, inside the polling station. I have, there's a time when one of my colleagues was observing the August 8th election. The moment there was a middle-aged lady who went in, and the moment he saw those IBC officials with green reflector jackets, with those machines in there, she just got confused. So she was being given these 6 ballot papers. She was wondering where to put these, why to put these where. So the moment all of us get the civic education right, and I was very concerned when the government suspended one of the NGOs that they were purporting to be with cahoots with the CJ and the rest. You see, these international organizations, when they come to Kenya, they have played a very major role, and they are really playing a major role in civic education. The ones that are in civic education, the ones that are in health are playing a very important role. You cannot just kick them away because they are not siding with you, or you think they're not siding with you. Look at the impact they're causing. We know some of them are malicious, yes, but you cannot just kick them away just on the mere face that they're not on your side. But that aside, leave alone civic education, we also need the IBC to now ensure that the execution of the contract that they have, for example, with the Otimofo, with Al Ghurair, are they going to execute the contents of that contract in time and in a manner described in that contract? We saw Chebukati, the chairman of the IBC, made another critical writing to the service providers. And this time round, he seemed to have learned and he seemed to have understood some level of operations within the IBC and in the election process. So he's very specific even in the letters that he wrote to them. He was very specific, and there are certain things that he wanted to come out in that contract so that at least there's some level of public confidence. And I know in so doing that, he's also trying to answer NASA in a way that, listen, there are certain things or some level of the irreducible minimums that you wanted that we're now addressing.
They've been taken care of.
Yeah.
So the countdown continues, and we'll be looking at it closely. Some of the news making headlines as well is that of Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, taking over investigations into the University of Nairobi students' incident, where some of them were allegedly injured by police. I'm saying were injured allegedly by police. Do you have confidence in IPOA executing this mandate?
One, I have confidence in the objectives of IPOA. I have confidence in the institutionalization of IPOA. But I have doubt in execution of the objectives of IPOA. One, because IPOA also goes to rely on the investigation of the police. They don't have an investigating arm. So when they suspect, they'll have to pick, pieces of evidence here and there, and at some level of time, you'll see them also trying to rely on the police themselves.
But then they should be independent.
They should be
independently oversighting. So for all this time since
you can be independently oversight, but you have the machinery.
But the thing is, for all this time that we have had IPOA,
Yes.
since the passing and promulgation of the Constitution,
Yes.
and since its formation, you cannot tell me that IPOA has not put in place infrastructure.
Have you seen the
to
infrastructure?
I cannot tell, Mashari and
Listen, and this is one of the substantiation. I'll substantiate that to you. The time they were doing the vetting, remember the pieces of public information they were relying on. They were relying on one, people writing to them. If you are the police and you're being put on vetting, they rely on public information. They will rely on maybe some level of media information. So if you look at the information they're relying on, perhaps to put a policeman to defense, definitely some of those pieces of those information is they're not that watertight, because if you see the way police carry out the investigation, when someone is criminally liable, the way they do investigation, then they take the investigation to court for prosecution, it is so systematic and it gives it an authority of movement. But if you look at IPOA, do they even have a tight investigative body? It is going to be very difficult for them to execute their work. And this is what we are saying, is that if we want IPOA to be very strong in this country, it has to be given a strong investigative arm that is quite independent from the police that we are having.
And so that also remains the question, not just IPOA, but remember that these are police officers.
Yes.
Accused of using excessive force. And I'm just wondering whether that is a lacuna somehow that we never looked at. Because do you expect the police to investigate the police?
There's a problem.
What is likely? So in that case, what could have been the best or the ideal situation that should bring the key issues at play? Because to expect a police to, it's like you are suggesting Samuel Njoroge investigates Martin, or Martin investigates Safina Chieng. Obviously, I'll have a bias in the event that Safina is on the wrong. I'll have a bias so that I want to protect her.
Yes, and our biggest prayer is that the Inspector General of Police, it comes down to the goodwill of the Inspector General of Police. Because if he's cracking the whip and he's saying, look, we in this police fraternity, I know we are good people, I know we want to enforce the law, but I also understand that it's not possible to have 100% proper and perfect police men and women. We may have some rogues here and there. It's normal in our society. You're not going to have 100% perfect people. What he must come out and say, he must come out and be seen to be cracking the whip. If there are rogue officers, he comes out and gives the goodwill and offers support to IPOA. But that having been said, Martin, you look at even the circumstances under which some of these officers have been accused of these activities. We are in a heated political environment, and in a heated political environment like this, there are always some allegations that, listen, these policemen are now working in cahoot, or maybe with Jubilee, for example. And in that assumption, you'll always have a feeling that even these police officers are being protected by the current political class. So it even makes the situation very difficult, even when it comes to investigation. So I also feel for Boynet. Remember, there was an amendment that came up the other year, whereby it gave the president, the sole powers of hiring and firing police chiefs. It just gives the police fraternity, it subjects them to be under the government, literally. So when any activity that they have done that is seen to be pro-government, it's obviously going to be very difficult to investigate.
Did we create so many centers? Because we have the Inspector General of Police, that is his office.
Yes.
We have the Independent Policing Oversight Authority.
Yes.
Because I remember, was it Article 254? I will still make reference to it. We also have the National Police Service Commission. Kavludi has been missing in action. You remember the police officer accused of allegedly, in fact, there was a video that was circulating, and he's seen allegedly stealing a mobile phone from one. Who should take responsibility for such kind of thing in the event such an officer has to be reprimanded?
In an event like that, Martin, there's individual criminal responsibility, whereby now you are investigated and taken to court. But given my problem,
investigated by who?
by the police. I mean, the police are the people mandated to investigate. So those are the issues. Those are the practical execution issues that we are having. But at the end of the day, Martin, in a normal society, and in a society that law and order is the play of the day, you will not find this kind of activities. You will not find this kind of issues arising. You will not find this institution overlapping with that institution. I mean, systems are led to run things. And that's why we are saying that in the governance fraternity where we are, all we are propagating for is that, listen, even if there is a heated situation in this country, even if we have political divides in this country, can't we let systems work? The day we let systems work, then I'll not wonder even if it's Martin leading that system. I'll not wonder even if it's John leading that system. I know at the end of the day I go to sleep, I rest easy, and I know systems are going to work. But we also require the goodwill of Kenyans. And this is where I have a problem. If your person or your people or your leader has done something that is literally wrong, then your people tends to defend that. You see, the goodwill of Kenyans comes first. And remember when Kibaki was coming to power, remember that time. Do you know that there was a period of, let's say, 3 months whereby the people of this country were taking things into their hands. If they see a thief, they will reprimand the thief and take to the police station. People just became very responsible. And that is the time when Kenyans were rated to be the most optimistic people in the whole world. I mean, that level. And when Kenyans give up, they become very dangerous. When they give up, now they tend to start aligning towards certain polls and saying, we are pro this team, we are pro this this leader. Mm-hmm. They lose the sense of national responsibility and national, that oneness that we should have. So I think the confidence of Kenyans and the responsibility of Kenyans comes first. It takes a center stage whereby people conscious. In fact, when a policeman wants to take a bribe, he looks over his shoulders and he doesn't want anybody to see him. But these days, look around you. I mean, a Kenyan is immediately offering, bribes so that he is let go. And you cannot blame him, because the system, even if you don't want to offer that bribe, you realize that you're the one who's going to suffer at the end of the day. So what do? You part with the 50 bob, 100 bob, you go to your workstation and you go to, to your responsibility you're going to do. Mm-hmm. So are we giving up as Kenyans? That is the biggest problem. That is the biggest question we should be asking.
And very critical that we should not give up, and we should continue to be patriotic, because this is our country, as you put it. Yeah. As we bring this to an end, the question of examinations, at least the Education Ministry is assuring students, and to be specific, candidates, that all is going to be well. In any case, public schools are supposed to close by 25th of this month, and save for the candidates, and we expect them next year, January. Do you feel that is extremely a long holiday, and there's perhaps need to reintroduce tuition?
I don't know, but personally
because
for me...
Because we're talking about October,
October,
that's
November,
at least 1 week,
December.
November, December. Almost 3 months.
Martin, one thing came out as a parent. I'm also a parent.
Wow.
One thing came up during the recent fire tragedy that we've been having. And I watched an interview of a very prosperous principal of Embo High School, I guess. And what is coming out is that as parents, we don't know our children. I mean, we just don't know our children. Is it because, and we will not be blamed, because a parent is waking up in the morning, he has to rush to work, he has a lot of responsibilities, she has to do this, do that. In the melody or in that process, we may find ourselves forgetting about knowing and understanding our kids. And that's why one of the allegations is in those dormitory fire cases is that some kid was there and she had a lot of personal problems that were supposed to be sorted at home and in school, and the kid did not just get help. Another thing that is coming out is that with social media, our kids have gone into social media so much that now the social cohesion and touch between parent and kid is lost in transient.
Is it-
That is a big problem.
Is it
So-
just students, or even you and you say you're married, even you and your wife? Because I'm told the interaction
The
now
intera-
because of
yeah,
the phone,
yeah, and
it's
we-
not just students.
It's not just students, unless, and you know, for kids and for young people, they tend to be in it so much because, hey, they don't have a lot of responsibility to run around. But it's a concern. So for me, if you say that it's a long holiday, I look at it in the other side of the coin. It's going to give us a chance, and parents and also relatives also, so that these kids can visit their relatives, they can know where they come from, they can understand their cultures, they can understand their responsibilities, and the kids in the urban areas also, if they have, you know, the villages, they can go back to the village, they can learn how to look after cattle, they can, you know, they can understand the basics of you know, socialistic setup. So it gives them a chance.
It gives them a
It gives them a
chance.
chance. So the long holidays is a plus. Let the kids
it's
rest,
a
by the
plus.
way.
But-
They have a lot of stress, by the way.
Just by way of establishing, how many children do you have?
One.
No wonder. No wonder. That's,
But by the way, Martin, in our culture, I've just done a big mistake.
You don't count.
We don't count children.
But at least I understand why you're saying to
No,
give it
we
time.
don't
Because,
count children.
You know,
I-
for some who have got 10. Now these are trying period.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
in terms of the economics part of
Yes,
it.
the economy is part of it.
And that, but we want to wish the candidates all the
We
best.
wish them the best.
I know now they are so busy, but there are a lot of noise, politically speaking. Hope they just ignore and concentrate on those studies, because at the end of the day, it is key that they pass those examinations. A word for them, for the candidates?
No, I mean, candidates, we wish the candidates all the best, and we can put them in prayers, and we look up to them. They are going to be, as we say, they're the leaders of tomorrow. Not only leaders, they're going to be priests. They're going to be in the civil society. They're going to be in governance fraternity like us. They're going to be in media like you. So we wish them the best, and we know they have a big contribution to contribute in the development of this country.
Thank you very much for getting time to be with us in the headlines. And from us as well, we want to wish all the candidates all the best as they prepare for the forthcoming national examinations. Education CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, together with Professor Magoha, the chairperson of the Kenya National Examinations Council, say all is ready for that particular examination. Adequate measures have been put into place to ensure it is done in a secure environment. So if you're a candidate, there's no time to sleep. It's time to, go through those books, comb through those books. If you have been reading and you've been revising, I want to assure you we were there and we made it. You're going to make it. We take a quick break now. And after that, Safina Cheng will be coming up with the second interview, and that is Women at the Forefront. And she'll be looking at matters, politics, governance, and what you need to know as she puts women at the forefront. Stay tuned to the program. This is the only way to kickstart your morning.